Why do bad things happen to good people? Have you ever thought about this question before? I believe certainly yes. Today we're tackling a challenging and deeply personal question. This is a question that many of us struggle with, especially when we or our loved ones face unexpected hardships. Let's explore this from a biblical perspective to gain understanding and find hope. 1. We live in a fallen world. The first thing to understand is that we live in a fallen world. Since the fall of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, sin entered the world, bringing with it pain, suffering, and death. Romans 5:12 tells us, "Therefore, just as sin entered the world through one man, and death through sin, and in this way death came to all people because all sinned." Because of this original sin, the world is not as God originally intended, and bad things happen as a result of living in a world marred by sin. 2. God allows suffering to build character and faith. Sometimes God allows suffering to build our character and deepen our faith. James 1:2-4 encourages us, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work, so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything." While this may be hard to accept, God uses our difficulties to strengthen us, make us more like Christ, and draw us closer to Him. 3. God's ways are higher than our ways. We must also remember that God's ways and thoughts are far beyond our understanding. Isaiah 55:8-9 says, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." There are times when we simply cannot comprehend why God allows certain things to happen, but we are called to trust in His infinite wisdom and love. 4. Suffering can bring us closer to God. Suffering can also be a tool that brings us closer to God. Psalm 34:18 reminds us, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." In our most difficult moments, God is near, offering comfort and peace. It is often in our pain and brokenness that we experience God's presence most profoundly. Through suffering, we learn to rely not on ourselves but on God, who is our ultimate source of strength and comfort. 5. Evil exists, but God is still sovereign. Another important point is that evil exists in this world, but God is still sovereign. The Bible teaches that Satan is a real enemy who seeks to destroy. 1 Peter 5:8. However, God is still in control, and He can use even the evil intentions of others for His purposes. Joseph's story in Genesis is a powerful example. His brothers sold him into slavery intending harm, but God used it for good to save many lives. Genesis 50:20. 6. Jesus experienced suffering for our sake. We should also remember that Jesus, who was sinless, experienced immense suffering. Hebrews 4:15 tells us, "For we do not have a high priest who is unable to empathize with our weaknesses, but we have one who has been tempted in every way, just as we are, yet He did not sin." Jesus understands our pain because He went through suffering Himself, and He did it out of love for us. His suffering brings redemption, showing that God can turn even the darkest situations into sources of hope. 7. Future glory and eternal perspective. Paul reminds us in Romans 8:18, "I consider that our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us." Our time on earth is temporary compared to the eternity we will spend with God. The Bible encourages us to maintain an eternal perspective, understanding that whatever we face here is temporary, and that God has promised us eternal life, free from suffering and pain. 8. God's comfort and promise of restoration. Finally, we must cling to God's promise of restoration and comfort. Revelation 21:4 gives us hope for the future. He will wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death or mourning or crying or pain, for the old order of things has passed away. God promises a future without suffering for those who believe in Him. Until then, He comforts us, walks with us through our trials, and gives us strength to endure. In conclusion, while we may not always understand why bad things happen to good people, we can trust that God is with us in every situation. He uses our suffering for His purposes, to build our character, to draw us closer to Him, and to ultimately bring about good. We are not alone in our struggles, and we can find peace in knowing that God is sovereign, He loves us deeply, and He has a plan that is far greater than we can imagine. If this video was helpful, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like and share, and to receive notification anytime latest video is uploaded.